Thor Ragnarok is a 2017 film directed by Taika Waititi, starring Chris Hemsworth, Tom Hiddleston, Kate Blanchett, Mark Ruffalo, Tessa Thompson, Jeff Goldblum, and Anthony Hopkins. It's the story of Thor, while having to deal with the impending end of the gods known as Ragnarok, and also having to overcome the struggle of dealing with his long-lost sister Hela, finding and dueling his friend the Hulk, and also managing the mischief of his perfectly alive and well brother Loki. This movie was an absolute blast. It's really so much fun. And I know I say that a lot, MCU movies tend to have a knack for being fun, but this is up there in terms of being one of the best and most fun movies in the franchise. A lot of praise has been heaped on Taika Waititi for how he's handled the production, writing, and directing of this movie, and I've gotta admit that he deserves it. Well done, man. The cast here really delivers. Chris Hemsworth's really allowed to play to his comedic nature here. He does incredibly well in this regard, as his timing and delivery are all done in a sublime and killer manner. He essentially owns the role of the God of Thunder now, and he's just added to it with this performance. In fact, everyone in the cast is allowed a lot more freedom with their roles and how they portray their characters. Jeff Goldblum is basically playing what we expect Jeff Goldblum to be. Tessa Thompson and Mark Ruffalo play great supporting roles to Hemsworth's Thor, and Tom Hiddleston's Loki is great as usual. Something I really enjoyed about the movie also is that it has a very signature type of look. There are so many bright colors that highlight the palette of this film. The greens and the yellows, the golds, reds, blues, all mark a very significant color contrast to some of the more muted colors of other Marvel movies. And I think it really suited what this movie was going for. It's bold, it's crazy, just like the entire movie basically. This movie is also freaking hilarious. I feel like the humor is something that people mention first and foremost when talking about Thor Ragnarok, as it's really one of the movie's main selling points. I love the comedy in this movie for the most part. I laughed countless times having seen it. It's really some of the best humor present in the MCU. Waititi and his crew really nail it. Sometimes I even felt like the movie was too funny at times. Like, it would tell some amazing jokes, and it would get me laughing, but it would keep going telling these jokes, and I just don't have enough laughs for the amount of jokes that it would hurl at me at a given time. I really can't complain so much about that though. The comedy was a really big factor as to why I enjoyed the movie so much. Now, while there are a lot of people who love this movie, there are those who didn't like it, which is fair of course. And a big component of the criticism that these people have regarding the film is that the humor is a tad too much. Some say that it undercuts a lot of the more serious moments in the film. And when I can kinda see that, I don't think it's so bad here. I personally felt like the problem was much worse in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I think in the end it comes down to your opinion and your taste in humor. Maybe it's just that. I don't know. But in my situation, the humor worked. I've also got a comment on what this movie's done for the Thor character. It's amazing. The movie gave him a major update, which when I first saw the movie I found fantastic. I feel like he really was always the sort of black sheep amongst the Avengers, where most of them are interesting, Thor's always felt a little muted. This movie allowed him to show off much more of his personality, and it's due to this film that he's one of my favorite characters now going into Infinity War. It also significantly upped his power level. The way Thor fights in this movie, especially towards the end of the third act, is truly how I feel the God of Thunder should fight. Looking back on the other movies, it's kinda crazy that they didn't really showcase the power someone like Thor should be wielding. The movie does not hold back in this sense. The word God really applies to Thor here, and it's all for the better. I love the music in this movie too. There's obviously a very synthy vibe going on here, which I love. It totally suited the strangeness that is this film. The Immigrant Song, which was used in a lot of the marketing of this movie, is used to perfection here. It comes back during the most epic moments and adds another level to the scenes that it plays in. And while the movie really went for some more different themes in most of the music used, I'm glad other bits of music from the previous movies weren't forgotten entirely. For instance, the theme from Thor: The Dark World plays in the end of the movie, which I felt was very fitting. Kate Blanchett is also someone I really enjoyed here. Her Hela is a joy to watch, because she is the kind of actress that can command a scene, and that is super evident in her portrayal of such a diva. Hela is ruthless, cunning, and she'll tear anyone to shreds without a hair out of place while doing it. Unlike many MCU villains, Hela actually has some semblance of life in her. Ironic considering she's the goddess of death, you know? And Korg? Korg is amazing. Every word out of that rock person's mouth is gold. I love him. Now in terms of the movie's effects, I feel like this one is pretty hit or miss. There are some sequences where the effects look great. However, I couldn't help but notice several missteps in this regard in some scenes. There are moments when I think to myself, yep, that's a green screen right there. It wasn't terrible, but I have heard people talking about being bothered by this, and I totally get it. It kinda took me out of the movie to some extent as well. However, apart from that, I don't have too many complaints about this movie. In the end, I really enjoyed Thor Ragnarok. It was a wild ride, one that I had a ton of fun with, and provided me with a Thor that I can't wait to see in Infinity War. It was unafraid to go crazy, and it paid off big time. And it's, without a doubt, the best Thor movie that the MCU has provided us so far. I give Thor Ragnarok an 8.5 out of 10. So yeah, I can't understate how much fun I had with this movie. I feel like Ragnarok was for Thor what The Winter Soldier was for Cap. These were movies that completely gave the heroes makeovers and 100% sold me on them. Anyways, one last rewatch review coming up, and for that, we look back at our trip to Wakanda last February.